Hi, good afternoon. Today is June 13, 2025, and it's about 4:55 p.m. Central Time, US Central Time. I'm making this quick. This is going to be a very quick video, a part of the series that I've titled Rapid Fire Tips for Law Enforcement. And the idea is to pass a couple of tips to potential authorities that might be watching the evolving situation. Two things that I found today related to the counts about obstruction of justice. And I think they might be important. The first thing is related to the civil case in the district court. I think it's the 387th district court. I think this is in the for Bend County. Yeah, so it's for Bend County, but it's a 387th district court. And the docket number, the case number is 25-Delta Charlie Victor 382122. Okay. So this is the divorce quote unquote lawsuit that Diosdado Caibolo decided to file against me when I started publishing querying the Google Maps API for addresses in Caracas related to the points marked in the Elon Musk geo index. The first observation is the following, right? As this legal situation has evolved, at some point, Morgan Heibner, who is the lawyer representing Diosdado Cabello, she filed some exhibits with the court, okay? And the exhibits were basically a collection of things implying that I need a psychiatric evaluation and that everything I'm saying about Diosdado Cabello is I'm hallucinating, basically. That's what she's implying with exhibits. So she filed exhibits, right? And when she filed exhibits, my response was to also file just a couple of us. I didn't have to file much, but I filed a couple of things, right? So one was a document that is very important that was ingested in the pipeline, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago. And it's the registration card in the Venezuelan army of my former partner. So my former partner is an active Venezuelan military officer. And I didn't know this. I just found out 2 months ago when I ingested the document. And so that I included that in the exhibits because it's relevant, because of Cabello, he was a military figure, he participated in a coup d'etat, and my former partner is an active military personnel, and now Diosdado is suing me for divorce after I started doing those queries in the Google Maps API, so it seems like an obvious connection to me. But the interesting thing is that if I look at the case, if I click on this, oh, sorry. So if I look at the case, my submission is not there, right? Although I submitted it using this Tyler pause thing system, the submission is not there. So obviously it was stopped by the clerk. The clerk didn't really file it. Maybe the submission was reviewed and approved, but she didn't really, I'm saying she because the supervisor is a female individual that I always talk to a supervisor, as I mentioned in the previous video. So I'm assuming it was the same person, but it's not here, okay? Now, if you see the petitioner exhibits are there, right? So these were filed, but my exhibits were not filed. So I think it's another count of this obstruction of justice that we were talking about before. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is in my response, which of course they had to accept, right? And it's here and it's viewable by anybody. Again, the case number is 2525 and then a dash, Delta Charlie Victor 328122. So in my response, I included a section that was a notice of aiding and abetting Diosdado Cabello, basically. So I was putting on notice, here it is. So paragraph 13 of my answer to the original petition of divorce. I included a RICO notice, an aiding and abetting a RICO organization, a RICO organization in there. And I specifically named Diosdado Cabello in this document. And this is filed with the court, and it's public record, right? It's part of the legal record now. So this is there. I want to signal to highlight this in case they remove it somehow. So after I filed this, right, when we went to that audience with the judge, basically said, I'm not going to look at anything today. I'm just going to send this to mediation. Okay. And as I said, yeah, fine, I'm open to it. And Ms. Heibner said, yeah, let's do the mediation. We said that. But today I was having a kind of a conversation with my former partner over text messages. And she sent me a voice note, and it was interesting. So she said something along the lines of, it seems like you don't want to mediate, that you want this to go to a judge. I didn't say any of that. It really seemed like she was putting kind of words in my mouth in a way. But maybe to say that I boycotted the mediation, I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but that's what she said, right? And then she made the following statement. She said, if we're two rational people, we should be able to reach an agreement in mediation. And after she said that, I got to thinking that that's a very interesting statement, because if you read the original petition for divorce, which is also accessible, they made it so it's not accessible. That's another interesting thing. So they mark it like with confidential information or something, so it's not viewable in the web. But I imagine authorities, if they ever look at this, they probably have access to that and they will be able to see it, where they like basically say that I'm crazy, that I have some sort of disorder and I need to take medications, like discrediting me, right, with legal documents, in legal documents. But anyhow, I'm mentioning all this because that statement that partner made today, that if we're two rational people, we should be able to reach an agreement, got me to thinking that, and I'm trying to see how I articulate this, but assume for a second that I have a condition, a mental condition, and I need to see a psychiatrist and all that Diosdado Cabello is saying. If that was true, the judge should not have sent this to mediation, because a person that doesn't have control of their own psyche, they cannot negotiate or enter into any kind of contract, legally speaking, right? I should not be allowed to enter into a contract, into a legally binding contract with Morgan Heibner or my former partner or anybody, right? So it doesn't seem consistent. What I'm trying to say is that it doesn't seem consistent, the contents of the petition for a restraining order and a psychological evaluation, with then sending this case to mediation. And also, it doesn't seem consistent to me that the attorney, Morgan Heibner, agreed to go to a mediation with a person that she believes is crazy, right? It doesn't make sense. And I think, to be honest, like, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm supposing this video in case anybody out there is a lawyer or has. I was acting pro se in that audience with the judge, and I'm not a lawyer again, but I believe that Miss Heibner, as a lawyer that is part of the bar of Texas and that passed the bar exam, she had a moral duty, I think, and maybe even a legal obligation to object to mediation, because she signed a petition for a restraining order arguing that I'm crazy. How can she agree to go to a mediation with a person that she believes is crazy? Wouldn't that be taking advantage of this crazy person if they enter into a legally binding contract with them? So she should have objected that to the judge immediately, and she didn't. I think this is very telling, that she knows I'm not crazy, first of all, and that there's an agenda behind this, right? And now add to that the exhibits list and the actual exhibits, including in those exhibits I included the registration card of my former partner in the military army. It was dated, I think, 2001, 24 years ago. It's included there, but it wasn't actually filed into the legal record, right? So if somebody sees this, please check with the clerk of this 387th District Court to see why it wasn't filed, because it seems like everything I file gets submitted, reviewed, but it doesn't really get filed. And in different cases, right? In completely different envelopes and different proceedings. But the common thing seems to be the clerk or Tyler, right? But it's because of where it's being stopped, I think it's the clerk. So that's the other thing. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that it seems to me like that they're in a hairy situation now, right? Because sending this to mediation, it seems to me like what they want to do is to avoid a trial. So none of this becomes part of the legal record, right? So now they're in a situation where they basically have to force me to agree to something, whatever it is, right? But whatever, so this doesn't go to trial. But I don't know. It seems to me like they're in a hairy situation. And the other thing, if there's any lawyers out there watching this that I don't know, I will do some research. A lawyer probably would know. If anybody out there is watching this, and please send me a message if you know the answer to this. But I wonder if the mediator has a legal duty to decline to participate or to carry the mediation if he knows that there has been a claim about mental health about one of the participants in that mediation, right? Because that would create a tremendous problem for them. If the mediation says, I can't mediate because you said this guy was crazy, I cannot, in good conscience, get this person to enter into a legal agreement, this has to be sent back to the judge. I think they will be in a very difficult legal situation, I think. So those were the two data points that I wanted to show. Also, I'm going to post a link to my answer to the original petition of divorce, where there's this legal notice that I'm mentioning, that in paragraph 13, with each on page 9 of the document, that contains that notice. And I'm putting a notice on here in Morgan Hyde, right? She's on notice that she's aiding Diosdado Cabello. And if she continues, right, I guess that's her decision. So this is going to be it for this video, and I'm going to post some other content today. Thank you so much.